"You're handsome." That's how it started. Like a wild card pulled mid-conversation. No prelude, no hesitation. Just Maya, standing in the doorway of her room while I was elbow-deep in century-old wiring, dropping that line like she was pointing. Out the weather. And for a guy like me, Malik Carter, part-time philosopher and full-time electrician balancing on a creaky step stool with a flathead in hand, that's not something I hear every day. I didn't know whether to smile, bolt, or hand her the invoice and pretend I hadn't heard it. But there she stood, barefoot in a blue dress, arms crossed, eyes scanning me like she was flipping through the pages of my story, reading all the parts. I never let anyone touch. Thanks, I mumbled, unsure if I sounded caught off guard or just cautious. I've had clients flirt, tip with leftover birthday cake, call me sweetheart or genius after a fix. But Maya's words weren't like that. They weren't coded in charm or play. They landed straight. The light I'd been fixing blinked on, steady now, and I told her the ground wire was loose, but it's all settled. She didn't move. Just stood there, waiting like maybe I'd fix something else if I stuck around long enough. Then she said, "You always talk like that? Like you're explaining things to a kid?" Not mockingly, just curious. I shrugged. Clarity matters, especially in someone else's home. She smiled, soft, real. Then, just when I thought we were wrapping this up, she surprised me again. "You got time for lunch? Killer Turkey Club down the street. My treat." I was raised to keep things professional. Draw lines. Don't blur them, especially when you're working. But something about her, how she asked without asking, made it hard to say no. Still, I lied. Half lied. Said I had another job. She didn't press, just shook my hand. Firm, warm, and I packed up my tools, her eyes lingering like I'd left something behind. On my next job, halfway through rewiring a decaying ranch house, I got a text. "This is Maya. In case you change your mind." I didn't reply. Not at first. I went home, scrolled past it over and over, telling myself it was just lunch. Just a sandwich. Nothing more. 3 days passed, my thumb hovering over her name. What could I say? I'm a guy who lives above a barber shop, works with his hands, and drives a truck older than some of her appliances. What could I bring to a woman with art on her walls and a wine fridge worth more than my rent? Friday came, another text. "Turkey Club still on the menu. Noon tomorrow, I'll drive. Direct." No question mark. This time I caved. Sent her a quick okay before I could back out. Saturday came. I stood outside Bailey's Hardware dressed nicer than usual, but not too much. Trying, but not trying. She pulled up. New dress, same barefoot confidence, hair dancing with the wind. "You always show up barefoot?" I asked. She laughed. "Only when it matters." She drove us past the city, past all the noise, until we landed in a clearing, by a quiet river. No music, just silence and breeze. We ate turkey sandwiches, let the stillness fill the space between us. I don't remember who broke the silence, but somewhere in that slowness, she asked, "You think I'm weird?" I told her, "No, just unexpected." That seemed to settle something inside her. She talked about coming here as a kid, her grandmother's, quiet rituals, how the river used to wash off the weight of the world. Then she looked at me, eyes half closed, and asked, "You know what I like about you?" I joked, "My cheap labor?" And she laughed, then said, "You're not impressed by the house, the car, you don't care." I told her I was raised, not to stare at what wasn't mine. She looked straight at me and asked, "What if it is?" That question stuck. We talked for hours, bad jobs, childhood stories, dumb memories. For the first time in years, I wasn't performing. I was just me. On the drive home, she texted, "Next time you bring the sandwiches," and I smiled. A real one. The next week dragged. Breakers, outlets, repairs, just noise compared to the quiet she left in my head. Friday came, another text. "Dinner at my place. Should I bring wine or tools?" I replied, "Just myself. Maybe skip the boots, but I wore them anyway. Brought cornbread from the store, nerves packed tight beneath my shirt." She opened the door, barefoot, no makeup, cardigan loose around her shoulders. House smelled like rosemary and something rich in the oven. We ate salmon at her island. Candles, soft music. She asked about my worst date. I told her about getting stuck under a crawl space in July. She nearly choked laughing. Then she said, "You have a quiet way of being loud." I didn't know how. to answer, so I just nodded. Later, curled on her couch, she whispered, "You don't need to be polite here," and something in the air changed. Wasn't just space between us anymore, it was gravity. "You ever wonder what people say about us?" she asked. I admitted, probably nothing kind. She looked away. "My world's loud. Expectations, impressions. You don't just walk through it," I said. "I don't ask for permission." She smiled. "That's what scares them." "What about you?" I said. "I don't scare easy. No kiss, no sweeping music moment. Just cornbread, comfort, and a promise of more sandwiches." But the next morning, at a diner, I overheard two guys. "Isn't that the guy with the rich lady? He's just her project." I let it slide, but it stung. Monday, I lost a client. Said they saw me online with Maya, something about image. My boss wasn't mad, but it was a warning. "Let's keep it professional." A few days later, Maya called. Voice soft, grounded. "Come over, I've got milkshakes." We sat on her porch, and I realized I wasn't rewiring her lights anymore. I was rewiring the idea of who I thought I was allowed to love. Drinking chocolate peanut butter shakes on her porch that evening, I finally told her what I'd been holding back. The whispers, the stares, the way it felt to be watched like a story someone else was writing. She looked at me and said, "You fit my world, Malik. That's all I care about. But I needed space. Or at least I thought I did. Space from the noise, the pressure, the weight of being seen and judged." It hurt her, I could tell. But she understood. I stepped away thinking the distance would clear things, but all it did was make me miss her more than I knew I could. A week later, soaked in rain, I showed up at her door and she didn't even flinch. She just let me in. We sat and talked, not like new lovers, but like old souls sifting through years. She spoke of painting as therapy, how colors helped her feel sane, and I told her about how I solder wires because college always felt out of reach. Then she showed me a folder, full of hate, messages, comments, even stalker photos from that one day in the park. "Someone recognized you," she said. It spiraled. I looked at her, realizing space hadn't protected anything. "There's no safe distance from this," I said. She took my hand and whispered, "But there's strength in being close." That night we made a promise. No more hiding. We'd build something real. She painted. I wired. Maya created a logo. Carter Works. We printed flyers, held community. Fix-it days, took on apprentices, started showing the city we weren't a scandal. We were solution. But the gossip didn't stop. On one job, a client's wife looked me over like a stain and said, "You're Maya Williams's project, huh? Think this little stunt will last?" I said nothing, just fixed her wiring, left my invoice, and walked. Out with dignity intact. Then one morning, Maya gave me a painting. Black and white, fractured with veins of gold. My ex said I wasn't relatable. "I almost destroyed this," she confessed. "But broken isn't disposable." I looked at her and said, "You're not my savior. I don't need one. I want a partner." She smiled, and for the first time, we felt seen not for what people thought we were, but for who we chose to be. Still, the old city with its gold-plated last names kept drawing lines. Her ex, Grayson, showed up at one of my jobs, smirking like entitlement gave him rights. Called me a rebellion, a phase. I told him, I build things that last. He tried to shake me, but it only steeled my focus. Then Maya wrote an open letter, "When we love, outside the lines," and it went viral. We lost a few clients, but gained something better. Momentum. The press stopped calling us a controversy and started calling us what we were. Builders. Support poured in, not for drama, but for the dignity of doing the work. Still, the smear pieces came. One blog labeled me a social climber, called Maya a woke attention seeker. It rattled me for a moment. Then NPR reached out. We sat in that studio, and when they asked who we were, I said, "I'm not chasing headlines. I just want to build things that don't fall apart in storms." Maya added, "We build with what we have. He brings his hands. I bring the room." That one line, "He brings his hands, I bring the room," shifted the narrative. The hate lost its grip. Our story took root. Autumn arrived quiet and golden, and Carter Works wasn't just our name. It was our reputation. People didn't talk about Malik or Maya anymore. They talked about the work. One day in our new space, sunlight stretched across the floors. Like a blessing, Maya traced a mural on the wall, barefoot, steady. "What are you drawing?" I asked. She smiled. "Hands, because that's where it starts." 2 weeks later, we opened our studio, tools on one side, art on the other. Kids from the neighborhood came every Saturday to learn. Maya took the mic and said, "We didn't fall into this. We built it, plank by plank, hinge by hinge. And when the world asked us to choose, we chose each other." Then it was my turn. I stepped forward and said, "I used to think the only thing I'd ever own was a toolbox. Turns out, I get to own hope." That night, wrapped in one blanket, standing on our porch, we watched the wind pull gold from the trees. For the first time, I believed it. What we built was ours. Not inherited, not gifted, earned. In a city that kept drawing lines, we built bridges. We didn't just survive, we reclaimed the story. And now I'm asking you, where do you stand? On the lines that divide or the bridges that connect? Tell me in the comments, because maybe, just maybe, that's how real change starts.